Hello, welcome to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai Lokko. This program brings you the top stories that made headlines in the various media outlets. In a bit, I'll be bringing you some of these top stories and also introduce to you my guests for today's show. Stay with us. So welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. Let me give you an idea of some of the big stories for this week. We still have the political parties as well as the Electoral Commission on some back and forth over whether we should have a new voter register. Also, this week we've seen some terrible accident happening. Over 35 people reported dead. Other accidents have happened as well. What is happening on our roads with this increase in carnage on our roads? And later, there have been calls for those involved in the collapse of some financial institutions to be prosecuted. Well, this week we saw two of the top guys, the CEO of the former UT Bank as well as Beige Bank, being held to court, slapped with some charges of stealing, among others. We'll be looking at that story as well. But how did the newspapers and websites capture those stories? Let's start with the story to do with the EC. And let's see how the City Newsroom captured that story. It says, NDC welcomes advisory committee's decision to meet with IPAC. Let's go to the Ghanaian Times, and they say brouhaha over new voters register. Eminent advisory committee appeals for calm. The New Crusading Guys captures it as this: remain calm. EC Eminent Committee urges parties amidst new register brouhaha. The Daily Graphic says EC Eminent Committee IPAC to meet over new register. We go back to the City Newsroom because it's been picking what the New Patriotic Party has been saying on this, and it says voters register. We will honor any invitation to IPAC meeting. This is the NPP speaking over there. Let's stay with the City Newsroom because it says court action against new register will be last resort. This is Hassan Ayariga speaking. Let's go to the Finder newspaper, and this is how they capture that story. They say NDC, other parties demonstrate against new voters register. The Daily Graphic diffuse growing tension over register. Ni Okwe Dewona, the Sith tells Peace Council. It'll stay with that story because the Daily Statesman also captured that and says boycott upcoming voters registration. MPP communicators dare NDC. And let's finish off with the Ghanaian Times. It says EC will go ahead with new voters register. Let's move on to our second issue for today and go to the City Newsroom. And it says help identify bodies in Tuesday's road crash. Cape Coast Hospital to Ghanaians. We stay with the City Newsroom. It says Dompoase Road crash, families in tears over demise of relatives. Let's move to Daily Graphic. It says 34 perish in gory crash. President consoles bereaved families. We move to the Ghanaian Times if we can. Also says 34 perish in gory crash. 2 buses involved, 54 sustained injuries. We come back to the City Newsroom. Says Road Safety Authority begins investigations into deadly Dompoase Road crash. And then let's end with City Newsroom on this story to do with that sad incident on the accidents. And it says drivers urged to be disciplined on roads to reduce crashes. Let's go to a third topic for today to do with the banking sector and some 2 ex-CEOs being dragged before court, and start with the City Newsroom and some other issues developing around the story. It says collapsed savings and loans companies, customers call on the government to move account into universal banks. Still on City Newsroom, clients of collapsed microfinance firms will get their monies, Nana Addo assures. The Chronicle says Amoabenyina grabbed and hauled before court. Daily Heritage, still on that matter, says, I am clean, charge ex-UT boss tells court, granted 110 million cedi bail. The Ghanaian Observer says, banking sector cleanup, UT bank boss, Beige Bank CEO charged. We'll move to the New Crusading Guide, says, banking sector crisis, more prosecutions in the offing precedent, speaking over there at the New Year School on Tuesday. Ghanaian Times says owners of 2 collapsed banks put before court for misappropriating over 200 million cedis belonging to customers. And finally, let's end that with Daily Guide, which says UT Beige bosses in court over 441 million cedi fraud. So let me introduce my guests for today who will help me dissect the stories and also give you more details to the stories as they have been reported. And first, I have Attah-Mensah. He's with City FM and City TV. Welcome, Mr. Attah-Mensah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Many happy returns. That's the correct thing to say, right?
Well, Charlie, whichever, man. Whatever makes you happy, man.
And then I have Selorm Adonoo. He's the head of features and articles here at City FM and City TV. Selorm, Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
Well, gentlemen, welcome.
A belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was on Wednesday.
I think it's still
15th.
active. Happy birthday.
So no, we're celebrating it for a year.
Oh, for a year.
For a whole year. It's a milestone. But gentlemen, welcome to What the Papers Are Saying. Good to see you guys again. Yeah. Let's start with the Electoral Commission. They have said they intend to come up with a new register. They believe that the current machine that they're running, the system they're using to run those machines, are not good enough. The data can crash. They've given quite a number of reasons. And one, the current equipment, the voter management system runs on is obsolete and can no longer be supported. They say they are better off getting a new system than frequently replacing the failing parts. They also believe the current system is unable to verify some voters electronically and other things. But we'll go and look at these things one by one. But let's start with the big question of whether we need a new voters register at all. Let me start with you, Sam.
I thought you start with the lawyer first. Well, I think, for me, I think the question of whether we need a new voters register goes without saying, I must say. Yes, so the answer is yes, we do need a new voters register. And we've had a lot of fora, conferences, gatherings, or whatever you call that would attest to this fact. If you look at post the Supreme Court hearings of the 2012, if my memory serves me correctly, at least 6 of the judges had concluded that we needed a new register. And so the question of we needing a new register, in my estimation, is not hanging. It's a definite yes. Okay. Then again, the components of building a new register is not a single line event. And so it would require different resources, different stakeholders, And so my question would now rest on the scheduling of a new register.
The timing.
The timing.
A great time to do that, especially an election.
So your first question is whether we need, and I say yes, we do. Yeah. Second question will be whether how is scheduled to be done is the way to go. I'm not so sure whether I am qualified to answer that question because it's not an area that I personally exposed to. So I'll just look at it from where I sit as a media person, with a little IT left in me.
Well, you're an IT person, really. So from the IT perspective,
with a little IT left in me.
Tell us what you think.
And I'm looking at this huge project, and I'm asking, unless there are things that have happened in the IT world that some of us are not privy to. It's a huge project, and it involves different levels of stakeholders. And so from where I sit, it becomes a very difficult project to roll out within the period that we have left. And so I stand to be corrected.
Well, the AC says they've done new registers over the period. Now they're good enough. They've got the experience to roll out such a program without really, it's not something new to them now. I remember in 2012, we had a new register. At the time, it was an election year as well.
Yes, but you see, what I'm saying is that something must have prompted the EC to take this decision. And establishing the need for a new register may have come easily to them. But implementing that structure of building a new register is not as easy as identifying the need. So I'm just still on the issue of timing. Because see, I consider this as, again, an IT project. Okay? So from where we sit, how long are they going to do the implementation? And then when they are done with the implementation, when are they going to try the new system? Because obviously they have identified major problems with the old system.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
And so this new system that they are proposing is to kind of rectify some of the failings of the old system. And I'm okay with that. My issue has to do with the timing.
Right. But so let's run through, I think it's appropriate now for us to go through some of the challenges they've identified and see the solution to it. Whether the solutions they've tried, they say some didn't work. For example, they say that because some people said we used this same voter register during the district level elections and we're fine. But they are saying that some of the equipment they used, the system it's quite obsolete and they can no longer be supported. The previous vendors, STL, warned that the biometric voters register kits cannot be repaired and maintained. They said they spent 2 million cedis to repair and maintain it for the district level elections. And if they put all this together for the election that is coming up, buying a new or getting a new machine will be much cheaper. So costs, in terms of costs, it's better if they go with a new system. Then they're saying that the current data system is likely to crash. And for a major election, you don't want your system to crash for that day. Also, they say...
use the word crash?
Yes, they use the word crash. If you look at the current system again, they say it's unable to verify some voters electronically. So they believe that for the the district level elections, it was 0.25, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 0 point something. But if you look at the general election, that figure can move to about 70,000. And in a system where 50,000 can determine who becomes president or not, it is dangerous not to tackle that problem. They want to bring in the facial recognition to deal with that. So quite some good reasons why we should do it before the general elections, if you look at some of the things they are raising.
Well, like I said, I mean, for the many reasons they've given, I don't see why not. I mean, I still maintain that the challenge will still have to be how to convince Ghanaians about the schedule that they want to run. And that, for me, remains a challenge. If they can implement, as they say, I mean, look, you are going to introduce facial recognition for the first time. And don't tell me that doing the testing for facial recognition is an easy thing. It's not easy. You see, for every IT project, and this is one major example, at least 4 different levels of testing will have to happen after the system has been built. Okay, so you start your unit testing, which is taking the individual units of the system and testing whether they are working the way they're supposed to. Once you are done with your unit testing, you go into your integration testing. How do the different units speak to one another? It's another level of testing.
Yeah.
When you are done with that, you go to system testing. Now you are testing the whole system and how they connect with the outside world. When you are done, you now go to acceptance testing. So I'm just saying that there are different levels of testing that would have to do to make sure that this new system that we are talking about is indeed going to correct the old system. Now, you want to correct the old system by introducing facial recognition. Now, this facial recognition, as far as I know, is built by some white people somewhere. And pardon the use of this white people. I'm talking about Western world.
Okay.
And the sensitivities of these sensors for facial recognition changes even with color of skin.
That's right.
Even your personal laptop, if you try your personal laptop that uses the facial recognition, there are times that the laptop sees your face based on intensity of sun. The sun exposure and all this, it will not open unless you use your password.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that it's not a straightforward thing.
It's not as easy as we
make it sound.
Yeah.
But the reasons they give are sound reasons.
Very good reasons.
So you ask the question, do we need? I say yes, we need. We need a new voters register. But we should be careful how we run the schedule. And it's important that stakeholder relationships. It is the responsibility of the EC to get people along. You can't go on your own.
Okay, we'll come to the opposition to this from the major stakeholders and all that. But let me pick, Selorm, your thoughts about this, your initial remarks about all this. I think we've established that the timing, we need the register by the time, so we can take it to the timing.
So the timing is an issue. Back in 2012, that's when the biometric voter register was introduced for the first time. And I could remember the difficulties that dogged that process. And it's even continued to election day. And if you recall, in that particular election, we voted for 2 days because there were problems with verification and whatnot. So even with a system which was less complicated and which had enough time to be tested, we had to vote for 2 days.
No, they didn't have enough time to test. In fact,
in 2012,
some of the units were not tested
in
at all. Yes.
Okay, so
that led to the challenges we saw for the 2 days and all that.
The stakes appear even higher at this time. And we should be able to learn from history and learn from the past and everything. If we did it in a similar fashion in 2012 and it brought us a result which wasn't very good in terms of having to vote for 2 days and all the issues of tension, etc., which dogged it. I mean, somebody may ask, what was the EC doing all along? Of course, I also appreciate the fact that this new squad or this new leadership of the EC came in not too long ago. It was in 2018.
But that's enough time. We're in 2020.
Yes, maybe they were studying.
They
could argue that they were studying the books, they were studying the terrain, reviewing things, holding meetings, discussing things, etc. And those things, sometimes require a lot of time to do. But whether we have to compile a new register, given the constraints of the time, is another matter. So it's quite curious for me why the system cannot be updated anymore, or how the system will crash if we were to go with this. It sounds a bit complicated to my mind. I mean, because this is a system we just used. Of course, I appreciate the issues of pressure and stress on the system, but I think that in such IT matters, there is always a way out. Talking about facial recognition, I mean, like Samens eloquently, talked about it. In this case, and I also heard Bosman Asari talk about the fact that we have about 20% margin of error in this case, which means that it's even an inferior system when you compare it to the fingerprint verification.
No. You can't conclude that it's inferior.
Because the fingerprint verification has a lower margin of error, if you like, compared to the 20% margin of error
the
that they talked about.
I agree with
so,
you.
you know,
maybe the use of the word inferior.
That's why it's a system.
Okay, so there are various levels of verification.
That's why it's a system that complements one another
yes,
to give us the expected outcomes. So I'm not sure about being inferior, but what you want to say, if you permit me, is to say that maybe introducing the facial recognition may not necessarily increase the integrity of the system we expect.
That's right. Which they've said, actually. It's just to complement
to complement it. So I think what I expect the EC to be doing at this time is to be engaging the parties, a bit more actively than they are doing now. Because now it appears as if the EC is on one side and the other parties are on the other side agitating or maybe slugging it out among themselves. NDC and the other related parties say they don't want it for A, B, and C reasons. The MPP and the other parties also say this is what we need at this time, blah, blah, blah. It just sets one party against the other. I expect the EC to be actively engaging the parties, to be seeing how they can meet the parties, midway through the process. That is what engagement is all about. And also, I'm happy the EC advisory committee or council, the eminent committee led by Emil Short has begun speaking. And they've called for cool heads. And I believe that, if they are to begin the process properly or maybe start off their work properly, we should be able to come to some middle ground. And I'm happy the parties are also favorably viewing what the eminent committee can do. I personally think that the EC must be looking at ways of updating or working with this particular one. The NIA is in the process of compiling a national register, if you like.
If you listen to Bossman, he was saying that they cannot wait for the NIA. The NIA is far behind its time. One, the NIA has just registered, is it 6 million? And the numbers are like 25. 25
So that's what I'm saying. I think
they can't rely
I think it's
on
important
the
for the EC to find a way. I don't think there is no way. They should find a way of updating this. For example, I saw the statement from the...
No, they have terminated or concluded the engagement with the company that built the old one.
STL,
so there's no point. There's no way we are going back to the same company.
Yes. And they say they won't even go back because they are more expensive and all, so they are not even going back.
But here we are dealing with issues of time. I don't know how...
But they say they can do it.
and I mean, most people feel they cannot.
But if you ask me, my gut feeling is that the EC eventually will go ahead with this thing. This is what I think, that the EC eventually will go ahead with this thing.
And what do you think?
How are they going to bring along the stakeholders along? And that's a big challenge.
Right. So you're watching what the papers are saying. The question is hanging on how the EC will bring along the stakeholders. We'll see how this pans out. I'm sure this will keep running for a while, and we'll come back to this discussion as we go along during this show. But you're watching what the papers are saying. We want the conversation to be as interactive as possible. You can send us a message. The numbers are on your screens now, or send us via Facebook, City TV, or on Twitter as well. When we come back, we'll look at the carnage on our roads. 35 people dead already on Tuesday following a collision between two buses. How can we deal with this growing spate of road accidents here in our country? Stay with us, don't go away. We'll be right back. So welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai Lokko. I'm here with Attah-Mensah and Selorm Adonoo. We'll move to our next topic to do with road accidents on our roads. May their souls rest in peace. On Tuesday, we lost some 35 people in a road accident. We've seen, I think, 3 other accidents over the period. And it gets sad by the day. It's just 2 weeks into January, and we're seeing these numbers. Last year, if you permit me, I'll try and pull out some of the statistics we have to do with road accidents. And it's pretty troubling. So in 2018, 2,341 people were killed due to road accidents. Then 315 people were affected by motorcycle accidents in that same period. I'll give you the most dangerous highways in Ghana in a bit, but let me give you the 2018 figures for the regions. In 2018, for Upper West Region, 57. In the Northern Region, 184. Bono, 241. Ashanti Region, 339. Greater Accra Region, 460. Eastern Region, 405. Now, some of the dangerous highways, the Accra Cape Coast Road, the Aflao Accra Road, the Tamahohoi Road, Kumasi Techiman Road, Kintampo Tamale Road, Takrady Elubu Road. So, very, very worrying statistics we have over there. But let me start with you, Selorm, this time round with this carnage thing. It appears the numbers will keep increasing because there's so much we need to do that we're not doing.
It's unfortunate, Vivian, that every year we have, such staggering numbers dying and a lot more getting injured or maimed. I saw some stats earlier in the day, very horrific. In 2015, the National Road Safety Commission, now it's an authority, recorded 1,802 deaths from these road traffic accidents. In 2016, 2,084 deaths, over 10,000 injuries. And in 2018, which I believe is the latest, the MTTD recorded 2,341 deaths, about almost 800 of those being pedestrians. Now these ones look like just figures, little numbers of figures just being thrown about. But if you consider them quite carefully and you think about them properly, these are human lives. These are families of people. These are parents, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, breadwinners of many people. And you can imagine how many families have been left traumatized by some of these deaths. And the thing about road traffic deaths is that they are so sudden. It's not as if the person was sick for a period. You have time to prepare your mind, etc. These are sudden deaths. It happens, very painful death. You don't even have the time to process it properly. The person is dead. The breadwinner is dead. The loved one is dead and gone. And we don't appear to be getting it right. I saw some numbers also just before we came on air that even just in this January, close to 200 people have lost their lives. We had 35 or so just yesterday. And I remember in March 2019, on a single day, about 90 people lost their lives in road traffic crashes. I think there should be a huge or a bigger national discussion or conversation about this. I think it goes way beyond just changing the name of the Road Safety Commission to Road Safety Authority and purporting to clothe it with more powers, etc. They need more resources. We need to look at the construction of our roads. We are told that when it comes to matters of this nature, three things come to play: the engineering of the roads, we have education, and we have enforcement of the laws. We need to take each of these three components and then deal with them properly. How are our roads engineered? Is it Dompoasi, the accident which happened with, some 35 people losing their lives? We understand it was around a curve. How are our roads constructed? Sometimes you're traveling in the night, top speed, and you get to an area, there's such a huge depression. If you didn't know the road before, you could throw your car away. Look at Ebony's death. Something was happening around the road, heap of sand. These are all issues that must be looked at, broadly put under engineering. We need to take those things seriously. Our roads, are they too narrow or not? Are some roads supposed to be dual carriage roads? These conversations.
The former president saying when he's voted back to power, he'll make majority of these roads because he believes that's one of the reasons why.
Yes, he can say that. Of course, he may mean well. He can say that, but I think it goes beyond just talking about it because he had his time. I'm sure he did a few things, but a lot more needs to be done. These are serious matters which go beyond politics. Education. How well have we tried in educating people about roads and what not to do? I recently had adverts about speed limits, etc. We need to hear a lot more of those things, and also ensure the enforcement of the laws. When we see people, flouting those regulations or laws or rules, how do we treat them? Do we just find police officers standing at the corner of the road, shaking hands with the people and then letting them go? That breeds impunity. People will do it and they know that they can just shake hands with the police and then they go their way. It is wrong, and we must ensure that, we enforce the laws. Street lights, we construct roads and then we leave the roads. There are no street lights. The
ones with the lights, they go off and they are never fixed.
And you wonder why it is so. The motorway, for example, it was recently, we carried it on CNR, that some of the lights were being fixed. I don't know if all the lights have been fixed, but look at how long it took for street lights to be fixed on a road like the Attah-Mensah, a very important road, and a road which has recorded a lot of accidents. The street lights on portions of the N1 are off. Street lights on the
Accra alone, most lights
and you
are
ask
off.
yourself, what is the problem? Roads are constructed and the markings are bad. When you're traveling in the night, no street light and no road markings. Very, very dangerous. So all you depend on is your light or the light of an oncoming vehicle.
People put on their highlights and
you don't even know what to do. These are very, very serious things I think we must pay attention to, because the numbers we are recording are staggering. I also read something earlier in the day about about a call for a day of mourning or something like that for the deaths that we have recorded. When I saw it initially, it was funny. But as I read on, I realized the point the author was trying to make was that these things will show that they are not normal. But 35 people die, and it's business as usual. About 90 people die in a day through road traffic accidents, and it's like business as usual. There is no big national conversation around it, apart from president and former president and a few people, consoling the families or saying they regret that kind of thing. We need to get a bit more serious about this. There should be a conscious effort in terms of resourcing the agencies that the relevant agencies in respect of this. I always make the point about DVLA. I've been to the DVLA office a number of times to renew roadworthy certificate, or so they call it. I've hardly seen trotro drivers or these big buses around. And I ask myself, how do they get checked? How do they ensure that they are worthy on the roads? But they always have the certificates. How do they get them? And these are the same vehicles that cause a lot of the problems on the road. You go in towards the western part of Ghana, the Kaneshi area. You go to a station, a lot of big buses. How do we ensure that these buses are roadworthy? Is it that when I have money, I just buy the bus, I put it on the road, or we have a body which will ensure that the buses being put on the road are fit for the road and are fit for purpose? And how regularly do we make those checks to ensure that it's not just going to renew your roadworthy certificate once a year and that is it? I think we must find a more serious way of ensuring that the vehicles on the roads are fit for purpose and the drivers do the right thing. How many times have we seen people ensuring that the drivers driving those big cars and big passenger vehicles, actually know what they are doing, actually understand the road signs, etc. They are supposed to have licenses. And before you get license, there are things you must go through, which include knowing the road signs, etc. But we know in this part of our world that it is not every driver in Ghana that has gone through the DVLA system.
Yeah.
We must find a way of ensuring that they are updated, they know what the signs are, and every now and then there are refresher courses for them, which must be made compulsory.
But
so
we're not
we feel
doing
safer.
any of these things.
We are just there. When things come, then we'll issue statements, consoling the families, etc. And then everybody goes to sleep.
Isn't it sad that, I was reading a report that said that now most of the deaths we are seeing in this country are on the roads, which is very troubling. And the numbers keep growing. We all know that some of the issues, for example, like you said, road infrastructure, we need to look at it, road furnishings, all that. We need to have proper sanctions, make sure we go by it. And then our own behaviors, we need to deal with it. If you even look at what happened, when we move away, the team, they go back and do the same thing. And
because
you wonder,
because people expect City TV and to be arresting trotro drivers. Meanwhile, that is not the purpose. So let me give you some other figures. In 2016, the National Malaria Control Program, recorded 1,264 deaths. In that same year, over 2,000 people lost their lives on the road, which means that malaria, which is talked about big time, killed less people than road traffic accidents. But we don't even see any urgency around issues of road traffic crashes.
Now let's bring it in Selorm. What do you think about this accident thing? Why are we finding it difficult to really do the things that we have to do to avoid the numbers we are seeing?
I think it's just a national will which is absent. So lack of a national will to eradicate these things from our roads. Because, government in, government out. What they have done best is to talk about it, or at best discuss policies about it. And then the next they do is to add to the statistics, which is exactly what we are seeing.
Yeah.
30 people died, 35 people died. We share our condolences. And then the next day we are talking about football. Everybody has forgotten.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of country that we have. Selorm has spoken about road designs and all the things that you can talk about. In terms of the structure of civil engineering on our roads, I think there's a lot going for our roads in terms of design. We'll have a few failings here and there. I will be quick to talk about a challenge which I put within the space of social marketing, more than anything else. The attitudes of people. The attitudes of people. The indiscipline. Now, people do the kind of things they do on the roads because they know they will get away with it. Driving on the opposite side of the road, you know that your vehicle is not roadworthy, but they will do a fictitious roadworthy certificate and then carry passengers. You know that your petrol tank is leaking. They'll still so the kind of attitudes,
failing, but for some reason they believe they
can make the journey.
So people's attitudes, and look, you're a civil engineer. You are not a psychologist. So you will do the road, yes, but you are not going to become a road inspector and stand there when people are speeding. Then and most of the accidents that we have are as a result of people's attitudes. Long distance driving. I mean, how on earth, as a country, we allow drivers to carry passengers from Accra to Tamale without changing drivers.
Overnight, sleeping on one driver.
And then we pretend to be surprised when accidents happen. Why are we surprised? Some loose cannon of a contractor is left, and then they dig holes in the middle of roads with no care in the world.
Yeah.
People drive in the night and they drive straight into the ditch and they die, and we just add to the numbers. So we have no, as a country.
Some of them finish work and leave their tools and their
the concrete
on the road, and they go home.
And nobody
and a truck
calls them to order.
Breaks down in the middle of nowhere and they leave it there.
No triangles, nothing.
And so you see,
there's this funny one I saw, not to cut you. They had a wooden structure and the person put the helmet there. That's the warning for you that there's a track.
Yeah, look, I am very radical with these things. If you leave these things to me, they should give it to me. 1 month, I will clear the whole road. Because if you leave your car there, we don't take it to magazine for them to destroy the car and use it as spare parts.
And scrap.
Or we'll seize the car. We have to seize the car. No matter what, we have to seize the car. Because the point is that the damage that this vehicle is going to cause to our country is immeasurable. We leave it there, and some of them, they go into the bush and cut leaves and come and put the leaves there.
Yeah, or red ties and red.
And then some of them sheepishly go and sleep under the vehicles. They sleep under the vehicles. I would say a gym frama. Why do we do? You see, so I'm saying that we can talk about the road designs, yes, but I'm not so sure that the so-called bad roads, and I'm talking about potholed roads, and are the roads that have recorded the highest accidents.
The correct one, the smooth one.
It's the so-called smooth ones. Because people speed unreasonably. People overtake unreasonably. People drive on the opposite side. They do U-turns when they are not supposed to do. So I will still bring it down to the attitudes and the indiscipline. Can we resource the MTTD again and empower them to do the work? Because no advice from a politician is going to do this. No empathy from the president and his people will change this. Not until we give the MTTD and the police more power and support.
So that goes to the enforcement arm of the argument. Sometimes talks about attitude. Attitude can only be addressed or is best addressed using enforcement. So, like you park your car in the middle of the road, saying the car is sport, and so you leave it there like that. There's a law around that or against that. So the law deals with you. You are driving beyond a certain speed limit. The law catches you. The law deals with you. So until we begin enforcing the laws we have, we will just be talking and we will just be joking.
Okay.
The laws must be enforced.
Okay.
Enforcement will deal with the bad attitudes I spoke about.
Okay, so you're watching what the papers are saying. I'm here with Attah-Mensah and Selorm Adonoo. We'll be right back. We'll look at the banking sector crisis. Two ex-bosses of defunct financial institutions have been held before court, slapped with stealing, charges of stealing and other things. We'll look at that when we come back. Stay with us. Back to what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai Lokko. I'm here with Attah-Mensah and Selorm Adonoo. You've been sending messages as well. Let me quickly go through some of the messages. And this one from Tomla in Mankranso says, in fact, Attah-Mensah, Bosman Asari and the EC must listen to the voice of the Ghanaian. 18 civil society organizations have also added their voice against the plan of the EC to replace the current credible register, which produced 99% success in the district assembly elections held a month ago. This one from Prince Henry from Koforidua says, good evening, City TV. What is the guarantee that when we do a new register, it will not be bloated? Because when you do the new register today, people will die and it will become bloated. And also, why did the EC come out in the run-up of the just-ended district assembly election that the register is credible and are now saying it's overstretched and bloated? Hashtag, we do not need a new register. Say no to the new register. This one says, dear panelists, good evening to you. The issue of system crashing as feared by the EC is valid. Everybody is talking about the use of the system recently, but no one is comparing the numbers that voted in those elections as compared to the numbers expected during the December elections to elect a president and parliamentarians. And let me take this final one from Salam from Boku. He says, good evening, Vivian. I use my current voter ID and other documents for the ECOWAS card. If a new voter register is done, what happens to the one already on the ECOWAS card? Valid or invalid? I hope the EC is listening to answer that question. But let's go to our final topic to do with the hurling to court of some former bosses of defunct financial institutions. We saw the former CEO of UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, and that of Beige Bank being held before court. They've been slapped with a number of charges, stealing among others. They both say they are clean, they are not guilty. Prince Kofi Amoabeng, for example, has been granted bail of 110 million cedis. Mr. Uneko is still behind in police custody. Am I right to using that word as we speak? But there have been calls for prosecution of those people who were at the helm of affairs when these banks collapsed. And is it a way to go with what we are seeing with two people being now slapped with charges? The president this week reiterated that all those who are responsible for the collapse of the banks will surely be prosecuted, and those whose monies are stuck in there will be paid and all that. But what do we think about, you are a lawyer, about what we've seen with this? First of all, Uneko being still held, and the other being let to go. The arguments raised. What do you think, being a lawyer?
Bail is at the discretion of the judge. So I think what I heard was the judge felt a bit satisfied with the argument by Prince Kofi Amobing's lawyer in respect of, his bail application. In the case of Michael Nyinakun, the judge was not persuaded or convinced by the argument that the lawyer put forward. I don't know what went into the argument. I don't know what argument was forged. But that is what it is. Bail is at the discretion of the judge.
Okay.
We've passed the time where we say that some offences are not bailable or some crimes are not, when committed, are not bailable. Now it's unconstitutional to say so. Every crime in Ghana is bailable, but bail is at the discretion of the judge. The judge decides based on certain factors whether to give you bail or not. Some of these factors being whether you could be a flight risk, it could be a lot of things. I'm not sure Michael Nyinakun is a flight risk, but there could be other reasons. I don't know the reason the judge gave. Though it was a bit interesting that the two of them came almost on the same charge, and I don't see how different the bail arguments were. One was granted, the other was not. But that is purely at the discretion of the judge. Yes.
Okay.
Are we doing what we must do in terms of prosecuting the people? Yes. I think it's even long overdue. This started in 2017, and we are now seeing the first batch of people being hauled before the court. Couple of
this is the
months
second.
ago,
We saw.
the first batch of banks.
Capital Bank.
Yeah, so Capital Bank and UT.
Yeah.
They were the first two to go down, and so we saw Attah-Mensah and his colleagues a few months ago.
Fitzgerald,
Yes, and now we are seeing Kofi Amobing.
Yes.
Okay, and then so Michael Nyinakun was in the other batch with Gage.
Yes.
I think it's even long overdue, and the process is very slow. The wheels of justice, they say, grind slowly. But in this particular case, I think we should oil the wheels a bit so that the wheels will grind a bit faster.
Okay.
What this does is that it gives some assurance to the people. Justice is like that. It gives some assurance to the people that the people who, supervise the rot, or the people who were involved in the rot, which has cost the country so much money, are now being put are now being tried, and so justice will hopefully be served. What I think must happen is that we need to see a lot more of that. Okay. We need to see a lot more of that. We need to see a lot more action, and not just the criminal aspect of things. We should also be doing the civil aspect of things, which will have to deal with, trying to retrieve the money and other things. I think that's what the receivers are trying to do. But I think we need to see a lot more action on that front. It should be faster. The people who are being paid, I think the payment processes should be a bit faster.
Okay, let me bring in
that people can
time is up. Selorm, your quick thoughts on this?
Again, you had people calling for quick prosecution and all that. I am not so sure about quick prosecution because, you see, this is an area that as a country, I'd say is new to us. Okay. What happened is something that in my living memory have not seen it happen in Ghana. At least it happened in Nigeria the other time. And again, we want to do things in a careful manner so that 10, 20, 30 years down the line, the records of how we handled these problems will speak for themselves. And so I think, yes, we may want it quick, but we should allow the system and the processes to go on as they are going on. Okay. At the end of the day, Ghana must win. At the end of the day, the institutions should be strengthened. The industry should be strengthened. But my only concern as a citizen is that I would wish that the persons that supervised the so-called rot in the banking sector,
and the regulators,
from the regulators' side, should not be let off the hook.
That's right.
Because if we had good supervision,
we won't get to this point.
I don't think we would have gotten to this.
Okay.
So for us to punish the quote-unquote the perpetrators and not drag the institution that supervised it along will be rather unfortunate.
Okay. Thank you very much, Samuel Attah-Mensah. Thank you to Selorm Adonoo, and thank you to for allowing us to be in your living rooms, offices, or wherever you are. This is what the papers are saying, and this is City TV, and my name is Vivian Kai Lokko. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.